We're moving into, we're in second week, right, into a new year. I was just kind of thinking through, like, ever since 2020, right, we've all kind of, every new year, we've been like, man, 2021 is going to be better. And then it wasn't, right? And 22, oh, it's going to be great. This is my year. And then it wasn't. And then now we're into 2026, and we're still saying the same thing over and over again, and it doesn't seem like things are getting better. And I just want to remind you of something we said during Advent, is that every time you're like, man, the world's broken and things are not getting better, remember, that points us to hope, right? The hope that we have in Jesus. That, yeah, the world is not perfect, the world is not great, but there is a greater hope in Jesus. There's a world that will be great. So as much as the news has been a little bit crazy, that is not going to be our focus today because, let's face it, you can't do anything about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about something that we can do, and we're going to be talking about our words today, right? What we say, the things that we do, right? As we're talking about this series, Wisdom for the New Year. We're going to continue looking at what we can control. And so I'm going to ask a very simple question for this week. Is anyone at all thankful for a new year or a fresh start? Right? Yeah, okay, good. A little clean page. Or how many of you, would just say, I just want a better year than last year, right? We say that every year. But not just a different year, a better year. Because different, right? Different can happen on accident, like, every day is a new day and something different happens every day, and it can happen on accident. But better happens because you did something. It happens on purpose. It takes wisdom. And so today we're going to open up the Proverbs, and we're going to be looking at where your life kind of really lives. And it's our mouths, right? And as I finished writing this week, I went downstairs and I talked to Becky, and I was like, Becky, I'm probably cursing myself right now, but I'm like, Becky, this is a good one. And here's the reason why. There's nobody in here that doesn't need this message today, including this guy, right? I know when a message is going to hit because it hits me first, right? And so I think this is going to be good. So today we're going to talk about our mouth. We're going to be talking about our words, our tone, that text message, your comments, on social media or whatever it is, I didn't mean it like that. And so that's the big idea. If you want a better year this year, you need a better mouth, okay? If you want a better year this year, you need a better mouth. And so some of us, this is what we do. Some of us, we might need a new habit. We might need a new rhythm. We might need a new way of speaking. Because if we're honest, our biggest and most, the biggest regrets that we have aren't about generally things that we did. Sometimes it is, but generally it's about something that we have said. And the truth is, one sentence can take years to heal. So as we go to God's word, if you were here with us last week, I'm going to remind you some things about Proverbs because I think this is important. Or if you were out, or maybe if this was your first time with us, here's a quick idea of what Proverbs does and how it helps us with our lives. Proverbs is just God's wisdom for everyday life. So we said this last week, but Proverbs isn't a book that you read and you're like, oh man, that's deep. Oh, I really learned something today. Like, you can read through Proverbs and you're probably not going to read anything new. You're going to read through it and go, okay, well, yeah, I know that. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I know that. But what it does, it says, okay, now that I read that, what do I do on Monday? Because Proverbs isn't a book of promises. It's a book of patterns. It's not saying, do this, and then nothing hard is ever going to happen to you. It's not saying that. It's saying, if you do this, life usually works out this way. And another way to say this is that Proverbs or wisdom, it's not about the destination, it's about the path. It's not about where you're going, it's about how you live as you get there. It's not a book of promises, it's a book of patterns. And so I want you to remember, we laid this out last week, but wisdom, which is what Proverbs is all about, it's knowing the right thing and then doing the right thing. Wisdom is all about doing the right thing. And so this is important because in this book, Solomon is going to address three types of people. He talks about the simple, he talks about the fool, and he talks about the wise. And more importantly, what King Solomon does is he gives us the insight we need to actually be wise. So before we kind of begin, I'm going to look at these three categories again. We did this last week, but you have the simple, the fool, and the wise. Quick definition: the simple, they know, or they don't know what the right thing to do is, and so they just kind of do their best. And so they kind of blindly go and they go do things. Sometimes things work out because you got lucky. Sometimes they don't work out because you don't know what to do, right? The fool, on the other hand, they know the right thing to do. They just choose to do something else because it feels better. And maybe the wise thing is just too hard, so they don't want to do that. And this is the big problem. That might work out too. Sometimes you know the right thing, you don't want to do it, so you go do something else, and that works out for you. You're like, oh, sweet, that worked out. But here's the deal. Bad decision after bad decision, they stack up on top of each other until it's no good. Then you got the wise, and the wise, you probably guessed it, they know the right thing to do, and then they also do it. Even when it's hard. And have you ever heard the phrase, you've heard this phrase, we said this last week, and it's very common, no good deed goes unpunished, right? Sometimes the wise path might not be the easy path. Sometimes the wise path might cost you something. But I'm going to ask you the same question I asked last week. Who are you? Are you the simple? Are you the fool? Or are you the wise? And unfortunately for all of us, we're a mixture of all three. Because we're wise in some areas, and we're foolish in some areas, and we're just simple in some areas. But hopefully as we draw closer to Jesus and we draw closer to his word, we can become more wise in our living. And so last week we started with a simple how to be wise, but this week we're going to kind of get more deep into that, and we're going to talk about our words. And here's what we know. Our words are more powerful than we think. If you grew up as a kid like I did, you heard the phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And while I do believe there is some truth into that, right, that we shouldn't take the words of people so seriously, but it's also just not true, right? They do hurt, they do cut. And what this little phrase, right, it was originally had good intentions, but let me tell you what this phrase created. This phrase created Generation X. We were the most sarcastic generation ever. And it's because we said, words will never hurt you. And we could say whatever we want, and we could do whatever we want, we could be as sarcastic as we want, because we say, words will never hurt me. And if we're good at one thing, Generation X, and all of us, but if we're good at one thing, we're real good at hurting people with our words. I mean, real good at it. And while we're just, what we're saying here is that, that little saying, words will never hurt you, it's gone mostly by the wayside. I don't think we're really teaching our kids that much anymore. But I think one of the reasons that we found out that it was bad is that the Bible actually tells us this. It tells us that what we know about words is true. And unfortunately, what we've done is we've figured out the hard way. As the generations have gone by, as they've been severely impacted by the words of those around them, we found out the hard way that our words matter. And so check out Proverbs 18:21. It'll be on your screens here. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The tongue has the power of life and death. Now, that verse is a little intense, right? I mean, just check this out. It doesn't say, that the power of life and death are in your schedule. It doesn't say that it's in your bank account. It doesn't say that it's in your personality. It says that life and death, the power of that, it's like the tongue holds that power, life and death. Let me just say it like this. Your words are never neutral. They're always building something or they're breaking something down. Kind of like a toddler, right, with blocks. They're either building or they're tearing down. Or in leadership circles, right, you might hear the phrase, and leaders are kind of like with toddlers with blocks too, like they're building something or they're tearing something down. But that you might have heard this phrase, they say, words build worlds, right? And it's true. It's very important, but words also have the power to destroy worlds. Look at this. Your words can build confidence, safety, trust, intimacy, courage, faith. Or your words can break relationships, break peace, joy, break unity, break self-worth, break hope. And some of you know this, right? Because you can still remember, maybe not everything someone said, but that one sentence or that one comment that just landed like a brick. I won't tell you which one of my kids, but one of my kids, when they were young, I made a statement when I was just in frustration. I made a tiny little statement. It was a dumb statement to make, and they still remind me of it. Like second grade, right? I feel like I've done a lot to atone for this, but that one statement is still remembered. And so we know this. And you can't see words, but you can feel them. Because words are kind of like seeds. They don't always show fruit immediately, but they do always grow something. And that's what the second half of this verse tells us. Remember, Proverbs says the tongue has the power of life and death. And then it says those who love it will eat its fruit. And that means that your mouth produces a harvest. Remember, your words are seeds. The seeds are going to grow into something. So the question is, it's not do my words matter? The question is, what are my words producing? Because Proverbs says that you will eat what you plant. If you plant constant criticism, you're going to eat a strained relationship. If it's harsh words, it's going to be a defensive spouse. If it's negative talk, it's going to be discouraged children. If it's gossip, it's going to be broken trust. If it's angry speech, it's going to be isolation. If it's complaining, it's going to be bitterness growing in your own heart. But if you constantly, consistently will speak life, you'll eventually eat life fruit. Right? If you speak encouragement, you'll have a strengthened family. If you'll speak gentler words, you'll have peace in conflict. If you're honest and tender in communication, you'll have deeper trust. If you speak with gratitude, your joy will increase and those around you. If you speak words of blessing, faith will grow. So don't tell me that words don't matter, because words matter, right? We're all living in a world that our mouths are creating. Right? So the tongue has the power of life and death, and you're going to eat the fruit of what you've been saying. So this year, in the new year, if you're going to change anything, let's try to plant life with our words. So here's a question for you. What are your words growing in your own home? Where are they growing in your marriage? What are your words growing in your kids? What are your words growing in your friendships? What are your words growing in your workplace? Because your mouth has power. And God's saying, if you want to change your year, start here. And this is the truth about our words. Are we ready? Words reveal what's going on inside of you. Proverbs 10:19 says, sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent or wise will hold their tongues. And some of us are like, well, I just talk. That's how I process. That's what I do. And I'm a verbal processor. But Proverbs is saying, the more words you spill, the more likely something sinful spills out. Because words aren't random, They come from somewhere. Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So listen, your mouth is just a megaphone of your heart. What comes out of your mouth reveals what's inside. And so if what comes out is constant criticism, if it's impatience, if it's sarcasm, if it's negativity, if it's gossip, if it's anger, if it's complaining, then you don't just have a mouth problem, you have a heart problem. And so I can say it this way: your words show what's forming you. They show who you are becoming. And so maybe this year the goal isn't just nicer talk. Maybe the goal is change my heart so my words can change. Because your mouth reveals your heart. So we've talked about a little bit about unwise speech now, but let's talk about wise speech. What about what our speech should look like? Let's look at two rhythms of wise speech. Because Proverbs doesn't only tell us what's wrong, it also tells us what's right. It tells us what is wise. And so wise speech has two rhythms. And these are very simple, but they're not easy, right? Oftentimes things that are very simple are not very easy. And so here's the rhythms. Rhythm 1 is just slow down. And then rhythm 2, build up. So let's look at each of them. First, slow down, right? Take a look at Proverbs 10:19 again. It says, but the prudent, the wise, holds their tongues. Slow down. Church, wisdom often looks like restraint. Wisdom is not always having the right words. Wisdom is often knowing when to shut your mouth. And I know some of you are like, but that's not my spiritual gift. It can become one. Because here's what I know. Most of the damage we do with our words happens in a hurry. And so it happens in a moment. It happens in a tone. It happens in just a flash of anger. Because anger makes us feel justified, makes our words feel justified, but anger also makes us impulsive. Like the proverb says, a wise person pauses. They hold their tongue. And so just hear me. A pause is not a weakness. A pause is wisdom. A pause is spiritual maturity. And sometimes the most spirit-filled thing that you can do is just to take a breath, step away, pray. Wait before you hit send on that text or that email. Walk around the block. Just let God calm your soul. Because you can't unsay what has been said. And here's some advice that I think we need to get good at. If your mouth is fast, your apology better be just as fast. And here's a better way to say it. Or here's the better way. Don't get into so many situations that you need to apologize for your words. Slow down. Hold your tongue. Let wisdom lead. So what about the words then that we do say? The words that we do say, here's what we want. We want them to build up. Look at Proverbs 12:18. It says, the words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. I'll repeat that first part. The words of the reckless pierce like swords. That does not sound like words will never hurt me, does it? In fact, it's the complete opposite. It's as if the Bible already knew what we should have known and what we should have been following. And so some of us, we have been stabbed by words. Some of us have done the stabbing. Reckless words, right? They pierce like a sword. And that means that your mouth can become a weapon. But Proverbs doesn't stop there. It says, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Maybe you've been harmed by words before. Maybe the sermon hits a little too close to home. But maybe you've been to counseling, right? And you've been to counseling before, and you have also been able to, so you've seen the bad part of words, but you've been able to see how words of the wise can bring about healing. or how the kind words of a friend and how helpful that is. Right? That's actually why we have a Celebrate Recovery program here at the church. It's a great place to find healing and words of healing for your soul, for all your hurts, habits, and hang-ups. And if you don't know it, we all got those. We all have hurts. We all have habits. We all have hang-ups. And here's what we're aiming at for this year. Not just fewer bad words, but more healing words. Right? Wouldn't that be great? Like, wouldn't it be a more joyful place to be if we had more healing words? Because the wise person speaks differently. The wise person says things like, I'm proud of you. I believe in you. I'm with you. Let's work on this, right? Because not everything is perfect. It says you matter. God's not done with you. I forgive you. And the hardest one of all, I'm sorry. And this is what I want us all to see. The tongue of the wise brings healing. Right? The wise person may not know the answers to everything all the time, but their words bring healing. And here's the question. Are your words leaving people wounded or stronger? When your kids hear you, do they feel safe or small? When your spouse hears you, do they feel valued or evaluated and judged? When people you work with, right, when they hear you, do they feel encouraged or do they feel drained? Because God says your words can be a sword or your words can be medicine. This year, let's choose medicine. All right, our next point. Wise words are not just true. They are timely and tender. Listen, people are proud of being truth tellers. And truth is good, okay? We love truth. But you know these people. It might be you. But you don't worry if it is. It's okay. There's forgiveness if this is you. But here's what I'm talking about. You might say things, like, I just say how it is. Or, you guys, you know I'm blunt. Or, hey, I'm just being honest, right? And we think that makes up for everything else. It's like when someone says, no offense, but, right? But here's something offensive. But this is the question that we need to ask ourselves. Can I say this with love? Because sometimes blunt is just unhealed, right? It's not that you're being truthful. It's just that your own unhealthiness is coming out in your bluntness. And the truth without love is not wisdom. Truth without love is just brutality. Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Wrath is fire, but a soft answer is water. And some of us keep, instead of water, we just keep pouring gasoline on the argument. And then we want to act surprised when the whole thing blows up. And it's a gentle answer that's going to turn away wrath. And when Proverbs 15:4 says a soothing or gentle tongue, right, it says it's a tree of life. And that's just beautiful, right? And hear this, a gentle tongue is not weak. A gentle tongue is powerful. It's a tree of life because gentle words create safety. Gentle words, they calm storms. Gentle words help people breathe again. And so wisdom isn't just saying the right thing. It's saying the right thing in the right way at the right time with the right tone. Because we all know you can win an argument and lose the relationship. So if you can't speak gently, you can't plant a tree of life, right? We need to speak gently. So let's take a moment. We're going to get real practical with this. Let's take a little wisdom in words challenge, right? I want you to take this with you this week. And before you speak, anytime you speak, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Is it true? Okay, if it's true, okay, that's good. I might be able to say it. Is it necessary? well, maybe it's not necessary. Maybe it's true, but it's just not that necessary, right? And you could just leave it alone. If it's necessary, okay, let's go to the next one. Is it kind? Okay, well, the truth is, it can be true and necessary, and you can say it in a kind way, or you can say it in an unkind way. And so the questions that we're not asking, is it clever? We're not asking, hey, if I throw this on social media, will I get a bunch of likes? We're not asking, will it make me feel better? No, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And I want you to remember, we said this, what we've said about tone. You know, we can always say the right thing, but we can say it in the wrong way. And really, the more we ignore our tone, the less we notice that we even used a bad tone. And many times, when we let our words get away from us, whether it's whether it's actual intent or whether it's just one of, maybe we didn't intend for it to feel or land that way. It's just kind of our tone. It's often because of one of these four things. We're either hungry. Anybody get upset when they're hungry? Yeah, I'm real bad. Angry, lonely, or tired. Becky and I were just sharing this with a couple the other day. When I'm hungry, my words are more likely to get away from me. When Becky's tired, her words are more likely to get away from her. And so we've actually been in the middle of conversations that could turn heated or could calm down, right? And we'll be in the middle of this, and I can feel these feelings welling up, and I'm starving, and I'm like, hey, babe, can we talk about this after I eat? Because I am not thinking well. My brain doesn't work, and my tone doesn't work, and my attitude doesn't work. I can't do this right now, right? All right, and so kind of think through those, right? Are you aware of your circumstances? Which one of these is you, right? Do you have trouble when you're hungry or angry or lonely or tired? Or maybe it's something else, but I want you to remember like this little thing, that's an acrostic that spells HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And I want you to halt and watch your words. Watch your heart. And so as we close, here's the assignment this week, right? 1 week of intentional encouragement. 1 week, intentionally encouraging someone every day. Encourage your spouse, encourage your kids, encourage your friend, encourage someone at church, encourage a coworker. And just start with this prayer. Lord, set a guard over my mouth. Right? And that's not just a cute little prayer. That's really a life-changing prayer. Because if God would actually guard our mouths, I believe he could change our hearts this year. Now some of you, right, you need to respond today, and it's not by raising your hand, but it's by taking a next step, because the Holy Spirit's already asking you, or maybe it's bringing a face to you in mind. Someone maybe you've hurt with your words, or you've distanced, or you've avoided because of words. Or maybe some relationships need healing today, not because of money or schedules, but because of our words. Or some friendships need healing because you said something in a moment of anger. Or some workplace relationship needs healing because of gossip or criticism or passive-aggressive comments. And some of you need healing because words have been spoken over you, spoken to you. Words that have wounded, words that have shaped how you see yourself. But I want you to listen. The voice that matters most is God's voice. And God speaks life. And so we're going to do two things. We're going to ask God to heal our words, right? Heal words that we have spoken. And then we're also going to ask that God, that we would surrender our mouths to the Lord. Guard my mouth. Because a wise life will always start with a wise mouth.